Hello everyone, welcome to the Lang Focus channel. My name is Paul. Today I'm going to be talking about a language learning tool called Memrise. I tend to be a traditional kind of learner. I focus on using textbooks, on audio listening materials, and on communicating with native speakers. Those are the staples of my typical study routine. But a lot of people ask me about things like Memrise, so I decided to give Memrise a try and give you my review and tell you my impressions. So first of all, what is Memrise? Well, Memrise is a language learning platform that's available on your desktop computer or on your smartphone, and it is basically a system for memorizing using flashcards with a spaced repetition system. So it's similar to something like Anki, in which you use a flashcard to learn a word and then you review it at graduated intervals. Those intervals get longer each time you review the word. So maybe the first time you review it 2 minutes later, but then after that the next review comes 10 minutes later, the next one comes 30 minutes later, that kind of thing. So you're increasing the interval between the reviews of the flashcard each time. That's what I mean by a spaced repetition system. Memrise is used primarily for language learning, but you can use it for other kinds of information too, like geography or biology or whatever information you could put on flashcards. You can make flashcards and use them in the Memrise system. One of the pillars of the Memrise approach is science. They claim to have a lot of legitimate science behind their approach, behind their technology, with one of the founders of Memrise being a neuroscientist and the other one being an award-winning master of memory, someone who's won a lot of memory contests, that kind of thing. The science of Memrise focuses on two things: encoding and testing. So the first thing that Memrise is focused on is encoding new information into your memory, and that is done by using something called MEMS. What MEMS are is they are kind of multimedia bits of information that can help you connect that new information to something you already know. So it could be an image. So you're associating that new phrase or word with an image that is familiar to you. It could be a funny sentence or a shocking sentence, something like that. It could be a mnemonic device. Any of these kinds of things that can help you connect that new information, make some connections and retrieve that memory later. Those can be used as MEMS. If you're an experienced language learner, then you might be good at coming up with MEMS of your own off the top of your head. But if you're not, or if you just need extra ideas, then you get these MEMS within the Memrise system that are provided for you. So those MEMS are for the purpose of encoding new information into memories. The second scientific principle that Memrise is focused on is testing. So after you have encoded that new information as a memory, then the next thing is to test yourself. That is to prompt yourself to recall that information later on before you forget it. And when you do recall that information, that strengthens the memory. Okay, next I'll talk about the content. And by that I mean the courses and the flashcards that you can learn from inside the Memrise system. Memrise content is organized into courses, and each of those courses consists of a bunch of flashcards, and those courses are created by Memrise users. They're not created by the founders of Memrise or their employees. They're created by you, the people who use Memrise. So anyone who has the desktop version of Memrise can create a course anytime they want, and that means that there's a huge variety of courses available. There are tons of courses on Memrise. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the positives and the negatives of Memrise, and then after that I'll give you just my final thoughts and summary on this tool for language learning. So the positives. Number one is just the sheer number of courses available. The amount of content on Memrise is staggering. If you look at the courses available, at the languages available, there's just tons and tons to choose from. So it's like being a kid in a candy store. It's really a lot of fun just to browse through there and think about what course you want to try next. So let's take a look at the selection inside Memrise. Well, so here we are on the Memrise homepage, and if I click on the courses button over here, we'll see some of the featured courses on the front page. So we have Learn Basic Russian, Learn Basic Brazilian, etc. So these ones are particularly popular, so they are featured on the front page. But these are not the only language courses available. Let's look at the left-hand sidebar and see some of the others. So these are the top categories, the most popular languages, but look down below that and we can look at all categories. So you see there are some other subjects like trivia and memory training, history, geography, but let's look at languages. So look at that, we've got all languages or languages broken down into regions. So let's click on, for example, African and see how many languages there are. You can see there's a big long list of African languages like Zulu, Xhosa, Wolof, Somali. There's all these languages. Let's have a look up above at, let's see, Asian and Pacific. Let's see. So a lot of the Asian languages are here: Indonesian, Korean, Thai, Vietnamese. So even Ainu, even the Ainu language from Japan, which is a very endangered language, even Maori. So there's a lot of languages that are much less widely studied that courses are available for. So let's choose a language and click on it just to see the variety of courses that you can get just for that one language. So let's not click the top one because that would be a bit too obvious. Let's click, let's see, how about Italian? Let's go for that. So we've got Learn Basic Italian. I don't know exactly what it consists of, but it says Learn Italian vocab, grammar, verbs, phrases. And down here, let's see, Intermediate Italian, Italian verbs and expressions, Introductory Italian, the 500 most common Italian verbs, Hacking Italian, Elementary Italian. So these are all different courses created by users. Some of them might cover similar things, so you probably don't want to do all of the courses, but there's a lot to choose from, which is part of the fun of looking around inside Memrise. So you don't have to start at the beginning and follow a linear path with any kind of course. You can jump around, skip around a little bit. You can do multiple courses at the same time. It's really up to you. It's nice to have that flexibility. Okay, the second positive thing is that the system of encoding and testing is quite effective in my opinion. I tried out some Tagalog and French courses, but I also tried out a Turkish course because Turkish is a language that I've never studied, and I got a chance to see how it feels to learn a language from scratch using Memrise. I didn't get really far with that course. I just did a few lessons in it, but I had a chance to see how well I remembered things. And I felt that I remembered the words quite well because I was prompted to recall the words at times when I was just about to forget them, and that's actually really good in spaced repetition. The goal is that you want to retrieve the word right before you forget it, because the more effort it takes to recall and retrieve that word, the more you will strengthen that memory. So it felt like the Memrise system had really strategically timed when I needed to review that word, right on the edge of forgetting it, which is good. I also found the mems quite useful. I'm an experienced language learner. I'm pretty good at coming up with my own mems, but having a bunch of crowdsourced mems to choose from makes it just really easy and quick, and sometimes you see one that really you connect with and you want to use more than your own, and that just makes everything easier and smoother. So if they're there, why not? It's useful. Okay, so now for a couple of negative things. The first negative point is that Memrise is not really a comprehensive language learning system. It's basically a flashcard drilling system with spaced repetitions. So it's not something I would use to learn a language completely from scratch all by itself. You don't really get any explanation about the grammar or phonology or anything like that. So sometimes when practicing with Memrise, I would be looking at a word and thinking, why are the letters pronounced this way? I really would like to have some explanation of the phonology or things like that, but of course there is none. So I'm pretty good at deducing that stuff from examples, just from experience, and that's the way I think. But I think a lot of people really need to have that explanation, and even for me, it's good to have it. It makes it easier. So just the lack of explanation, the lack of presentation of the language concepts makes it less than a full language learning course. It's really just drilling vocabulary, phrases, and translation of sentences. So that means that basically you should use Memrise along with another course that is more comprehensive. Okay, the second negative thing is that the user-generated courses are both a blessing and a curse. Like I said before, they're a blessing because there's such an awesome amount of variety and such a selection to choose from, but at the same time, there's not really a lot of quality control and there's no standardization of the courses. Some of them are a lot better than others. Some of them seem to introduce words in a really strange order, or they start with things that in the beginning that you don't need yet, that kind of stuff. So I found that I really had to search around, try a few different courses to see which one fit my needs, and then if it didn't fit my needs, just leave that course and join a different one. So you have to look around, shop around a little bit before you decide what course to use. So that's a little bit different than some other language learning platforms that have been kind of refined and standardized more, so that you kind of always know that you're getting a course that they themselves have developed and focused on. Basically, to sum up my positives and negatives, I would say that Memrise is actually a really useful tool for drilling vocabulary and for drilling sentences and maybe doing some sentence-to-sentence translation. And it's a fun tool to use, so it's good as a supplement. It's good to get that extra source of input of the language. It's just a useful tool, but it's not a comprehensive language learning program, so I wouldn't stick to only Memrise. Unless you're just dabbling in a language on the side, like if you're focused on French and you want to learn a bit of Portuguese, then just use Memrise for some Portuguese. That would be fine. But if you are really taking a language seriously, I would have a comprehensive main course and then use Memrise as an extra additional helpful tool, which it is. So that's all for my impressions, but how about you? Have you tried Memrise? If you have, then I ask you to leave your comments down below. Tell me what you thought of it. Was it useful for you? And if you have some tips on how to use it more effectively, then please write that as well. Thank you very much for watching the LangFocus channel. Be sure to follow LangFocus on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Google+. I'll be looking forward to interacting with you in all of those different places. All right, have a good day.